And back to our top story this morning. Australians still stuck in Vanuatu are calling for the government to do more to get them back home. And this morning we spoke to the daughter of a couple who were injured and in Vanuatu trying to get on an RAAF flight and was turned away, and say they are now rationing water and food as the search and rescue mission continues. Joining me live is National Senator Bridget McKenzie and Independent MP Zali Steggall. It is great to see you both. Thanks so much for coming on. Bridget, has the government response to the earthquake in Vanuatu been adequate in your view?
Yeah, well, we're glad to see, obviously, Australians evacuated, for the experts in rescue and recovery that we have here domestically to be flown over to Vanuatu to assist with that over coming months. And we are glad to see that such a significant friend of Australia in the Pacific in Vanuatu is getting the support they need at this time.
Aussie tourists in Port Vila, they're telling the media that they're being turned away from the High Commission. Some over there are even saying that there's limited communication. Zali, does that sit right with you at this point?
Look, it's concerning because it's really important when these kind of natural disasters strike that the Australian government rolls out the very necessary support through its diplomatic outposts and the embassies to Australian citizens that are there on holidays, but also to support our Pacific neighbours in their recovery from such tragedies. So I am urging the government to do absolutely all that's necessary, and we have to be mindful, I think, also what capacity there is for flights getting in and out, and a lot of the infrastructure would be damaged and impacted, but it is important for the government to put everything behind assisting.
Exactly. It's been a horrific event that's happened over there, that's for sure. Just back to that thing that I was talking about just a moment ago. Nuclear experts have slammed a Labor Party video about nuclear energy featuring a former Greens candidate that claims working or living near a nuclear power plant causes definite increases in cancer, heart attacks and strokes. It's been labelled as dangerous and anti-science. Bridget, what's your view of Labor's and Dr. Margaret Beavis's video on nuclear?
Well, I couldn't have said it better myself. It is anti-science. As Zali knows, she skied around the world on nuclear-powered, ski slopes in France, Canada, Japan, Switzerland, which has 40% of its national grid coming from nuclear power. This is the solution to net zero by 2050 and beyond, and staying a rich and prosperous nation. This doesn't mean getting rid of renewables, but it does mean adopting good science. And, as someone that actually has a science degree in the Australian Parliament, I think it is absolutely appalling to spread such misinformation as is going on in this Labor Party-sponsored ad. I mean, you're going to see a lot of hysteria, a lot of scare campaigns, because Chris Bowen and the Labor Party and their friends in the Teals movement are desperate for us to not be sensible and to join with the rest of the developed world in actually having nuclear as part of our net zero transition program for energy supply.
Zali, I guess the argument is, then, and there has been the argument, should we then be worried about the Navy personnel working in and on the AUKUS nuclear submarines? What's your view about the whole thing?
Look, where do you start with that ridiculous answer by Bridget? But look, I think if I go back to your question around the two main points, I think the campaign by Labor shows how desperately we need truth in political advertising laws. And the irony is the government has introduced legislation, but has not committed to putting it on for debate and a vote. I've been pushing for that for some time. The public deserves political advertising to be held to the same standard as consumer advertising, right? So I agree, it is outrageous, that campaign. But secondly, look, where do you even start? The reality is nuclear is fit for purpose in some jurisdictions and other countries. I don't dispute that. I don't have an issue with that. But the reality is, in Australia, it is not fit for purpose. We have this ridiculous scenario that is probably undercooking the cost by the cost was likely to be at least twice the amount predicted by the coalition numbers, and will take at least twice the time.
What
the reality is, we have.
Darling?
Oh, Bridget, we will base it on a real world example, not fairy tale economics. around, for example, the Hinkley Power Plant C, which was predicted to come online within 10 years at a cost of £18 billion. It is now predicted to take nearly twice that amount of time. It may be online. It may be online by 2031, and it will cost at least twice the amount predicted. Now, the reality is we have a window of 10 years in which we need to replace coal and coal-fired power station, right? It is like keeping your old car on the road. Oh, Bridget, just be quiet. It is like keeping your old car on the road when it is inefficient. It breaks down every second week, and you have to keep going and paying to have it repaired. Okay. That is what the coalition plan means, to keep coal-fired power station open longer.
Zali and Bridget, unfortunately, we're out of time.
So my question to Zali is Lucas Heights in Sydney, just down the road from where you
Bridget.
live.
Just be
they are
quiet.
not subject to health.
Already.
They're not actually. Stop trying to silence me, Zali. You're actually making the argument, the Labor Party is making the argument that those people are at health risk.
Okay.
Is
Bridget and Zali, unfortunately, we're out of time. But thank you so much for this year and joining us on the program. I hope you both have a great Christmas.